Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today's topic will be the taboos of something that we always avoid in Islamic communities or even in Desi cultures, and it's really funny and really sad, but I think it's a topic that needs to be addressed in lieu of the recent events. I really want to talk about the sexual education and the sexual context of why it's hidden in Islamic culture, why it's hidden in Desi culture in general, and what ramifications it has as we move into a newer, a modern society where we have these allegations coming forth. So one of the biggest problems with not teaching sexual education is that the kids are confused, and I see this all the time, especially in Islamic schools like CPSA and IFS. There's a lot of mixed gender interactions going on. Now that's part of society because you're in co-ed. Yes, you have hijab. Yes, you have kind of a burda, but that's expected. Boys and girls they interact obviously because they're humans at the end of the day. There's hormones and they're at the age of adolescence and puberty is kicking in, but one thing we cannot diminish is the importance of sexual education. And I see many parents shy away from that, and it's really dumb. You need to teach your kids what's right and what's wrong, what's halal and what's haram, and hope that leads to somewhere. Now, sexual education should not be a taboo in Islamic community. It should not be a taboo in any society. If for females, what you can do is you can have different sections where females can talk about personal issues. And now, when it comes to female sexual education in Islam, it's complicated matters like menstrual cycles and prayers and cleanliness and stuff like that. And I think those things are important, but it's also important to understand what contraceptives do and what to expect on after marriage, or the complications of what is halal, what is right and what is wrong. Now, kids can do their due diligence, but the problem is they're not these kids that are at such a young age don't have an understanding of that, and so they are confused or blindsided when there's abuse, when someone touches them at the wrong manner and they don't know how to react because of cultural or religious taboos. It's not right for any person to be sexually abused. That takes a toll on you personally, psychologically, and physically. And it's not only young girls. Unfortunately, as a matter of fact, there's young men that are probably being abused that have not come forth. It's shocking because if you go in Afghanistan, there's something called bachabazi, or in Pakistan it's called bachabazi, where they dress young kids as young as 10 years old in women clothing and make them dance, making them women garments or adoring the women garments, and then have sexual activities with them. It's really a common practice because because of the fact that women are so shunned upon. It's really unfortunate because if historically speaking or even religiously speaking, women are supposed to be beautiful creatures, and they were. Women are more beautiful than men, and they have some sort of appeal to them. That does not grant anyone the right to abuse, especially with higher power or higher authority. The point is not to bash on the higher power and higher authority, as I've already made videos on that, and there's been numerous people that have come up and talked about those allegations and have taken them to a next level. The point is to teach sexual education. I'm not a hormonal psycho. I think that teaching sexual education in the Islamic community in a right manner. Now, what is a right manner? It doesn't have to be co-ed, but you need to tell them, the ramifications, or if they are engaged, because as much as we want to live in a utopian world, there's a lot of sexual intercourse that happens. A lot of Muslims have sex at a very young age, but they need to understand what's right and what's wrong, if they have to use contraceptives or not, and have the similar approach as they have in American public school system. But then to also teach them that the responsibility that comes with it. I'm not more concerned about sexual interaction between the genders of the same age, because I know it happens all the time. No matter how it's to a point where I know that it's very personal, and it's to a point where it happens so often because it's so mainstream now that it's not that it can't be stopped. It's just like a virus. What I am concerned about is sexual abuse that goes in domestic levels, and this is not, these allegations. They're just an allegation from an institution standpoint. From a personal standpoint, these things happen. I guess parents get too they get too free on letting their young girls hang out with older gentlemen who have hormones and stuff like that, and that's the thing that they need to stop. We need to teach our young girls that any sort of abuse or any sort of comfort level or not being comfortable with an elder it's important to be aware of those signs. If someone's looking at you the wrong way or not, and rapes happen all the time, and they can't do that because losing a virginity is a huge chastity shock, and nobody wants to marry you. As I said, it has a lot of psychological ramifications that it's very hard for a guy to understand, because guys, it's acceptable from the guy's standpoint. But from a lady standpoint, we need to tell these things to the young ummas. So at the end of the day, we shouldn't have cases where it's not reported. If someone does you wrong, you do it. Don't give me this thing of, oh, Allah will take care of on the day of judgment. That's not how things work in real life. I hate this illusion. I hate this fallacy that people say Allah will take care of them. No. If someone is a perpetrator of a crime, they pay now, they pay later. That's how things work. Okay? That's how and then people yell if there's a lashing for committing adultery, where there's a lashing for a guy to commit adultery too. Don't think that men can get away from zina. Zina is just in itself a huge sin. But it almost seems like men can get away with it because it's almost acceptable. No, it's not acceptable. It's not as acceptable for a woman as it's for a man. So if you're a guy and you think that abusing or sexual abusing is okay because you can get away with it, you're completely wrong. The double standards don't come in religion. That's something of a cultural standpoint. With that being said, it is very important for us to teach these to the young girls so they have an understanding of and differentiate between abuse and reporting it when it's needed.